Hi everyone, Letty here. Today we're going to do a craft with me video where we make the MayMay Made It folio that's used for the 6x8 paper pads. Welcome back everyone. So I had previously showed in my hashtag SmashOurStash 2022 video this folio that I made inspired by MayMay Made It. I'll link her video down in the description box below. It has a little magnet closure and it has these super fun pages that you use your 6x8 paper pads for. You can add little inserts to add your photo mats. It has two pockets. And so I had made this folio and I showcased it or as one of the items that I made for the most recent Smash Our Stash. And so what I wanted to do was today I wanted to show you this folio, but then I also want to finish off this simple vintage lemon twist 6x8 paper pad by Simple Stories. Here's what I have left. Just a few cut apart sheets, a few solid sheets. And what we're going to do is we are going to make another folio, but there's a twist because we end up making two folios. I do have a little bit of ephemera pieces left. This is the paper pack that I had, or the collection. And then I also had a 3x4 cut apart sheet. So I had already made an extra folio off camera. I am using the basic gray magnets. I will link to my Amazon store down in the description in case you're interested, or in case you're not really sure what magnets to use. We're going to basically use off the rest of these supplies and we're going to make one folio today. And actually what you'll see is that we end up making two. And so these are the magnets that I use. They come in two sizes. They're by Basic Gray. You've got the smaller ones and you've got the larger ones. The larger ones are perfect for thicker paper or lots of layers. The smaller ones, which is what I'm going to use today, are better for thinner paper or just one layer. And so that's what it looks like. And these are the perfect magnets for crafty projects for like albums and folios because they're a little thinner. So today, we're going to make this folio. Let's go ahead and make it. So you're going to need 4 sheets of 8.5 by 11 inch cardstock. You probably want to stick closer to around 80 pound or greater. You don't want it too thick, but you also don't want it too thin, or too light. On the 8.5 inch side, and I had it flipped, but on the 8.5 inch side, you're going to cut it down to 8 1/4. So you're just going to trim off 1/4 of an inch from that side. So your final dimensions is 8 1/4 by 11. You're going to do the same thing with the next sheet, and that will finish off the cuts for those two papers. Now, on the last two, you're going to cut it on the 8 1/4 inch side. You're going to also cut it down to, or 8.5, you're going to cut it down to 8 1/4. So you're going to trim off the same thing that you just did. The only difference is you're going to rotate it on the 11 inch side and cut it at 6 1/4. So your final sheet will be 6 1/4 by 8 1/4. And you're going to do the same thing with the second cardstock, the last sheet. But we can actually make a mat from this. So we're going to cut it down to 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. And that's what will make our insert photo mats. So on our last sheet of paper, cut a little strip off the 1/4 inch and then go ahead and cut it down to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 for this last little photo mat. Super easy. You're going to just do basically 2 different types of cuts, but then your photo mats, you'll have a third kind of set of cuts. We're only going to score the larger sheet. So see, we have 2 sheets of the 8 1/4 by 11, and we have 2 sheets of the 6 1/4 by 8 1/4. And then of course we have those photo mats on the side. So we're going to take the 8 1/4 by 11 inch sheet. We're going to score it on the 11 inch side at 2 5/8, and then also at 9 inches. And then finally at 9 1/4. So you kind of can see my score lines there a little bit. 2 5/8, 9 inches, and 9 1/4. And you're going to do the same scores on the 2 larger sheets, which are the 8 1/4 by 11. Our scoring is done. We don't have to score anything else. This one's a really easy folio. And let me tell you, it's so addicting to make these. So you're going to go ahead and varnish or fold and enforce the score lines. I like to start for these little bitty ones. I like to start on the inner side and then work my way out. That's what your fold would look like. I do my big flap, and then again, I start with the inner one and then I work on the outer one. And this is what our 2 sheets will look like. And then you don't have to do any kind of scoring on the other smaller sheets. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay out our larger sheets here with the smaller flap to the right-hand side. So you see here, I have the smaller flap on the right for both of these pages. What we're going to do is we're going to add glue to that smaller flap in the middle. And we're going to go ahead and glue with the larger flap of your right-hand side sheet kind of sticking up. Now these 2 larger flaps, the ones that are sticking up right here, those are going to be your pockets. we're going to glue these 6 1/4 inch sheets directly to these two larger flaps that are sticking up. So that's what's going to make your two pockets, just like that. You see that? So you'll have your two pockets on your two left-hand side larger flaps. But let's go ahead and add some glue so we can glue this together. I'm using Barely Art wet glue today. We're going to add some glue to this, again, the smaller right-hand side flap of your sheet that's on the left side, just like this. And then make sure that you have your pocket flap sticking up, and you're going to glue this down all the way, but make sure you don't glue over those score marks. And so it's going to look like this on the back, where you'll have that flap, which is not a problem because we're going to cover over that excess paper. But you see here, we didn't touch those two little score marks in the middle of the 1/4 inch. And now you have your two pockets standing up, plus you have your little flap. So let me show you what this looks like. So see, that's our flap to close the folio. And then when I open it, those two flaps that are sticking up on the left-hand side, those larger ones, that's what's going to be your pockets. You see there? The two pockets. And the two sheets that are sticking up are going to be the extra sheets that we're going to be gluing back in right now, the 6 1/4 by 8 1/4. So we've got these two sheets. We're going to glue them behind these larger flaps to make our pockets. And we're going to glue them to the left-hand side. Let me show you one more time. We're going to glue it to the left-hand side. So you see how the pocket's going to be on the right. Now, one option you have is you can notch it out. I am using the We Are Memory Keepers notcher. Usually when I have pockets in anything, I like to use the We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board to make my notches. Now, one option to make it easier is just to leave it just like this. And you don't have to add any notches at all. And again, if after making several folios, my recommendation is just to leave it as is and not even worry about the notches. Again, I think I've made about a dozen folios in the last few days, and I think it's just so much easier to just do it without the notches. But in case you want to make it, I'll show you how to do it. So you're going to want to take some paper scraps that are 2.5 by 8 inches. I'm just double checking my measurements, and you could go a little smaller too. You could do 2 1/4 by 8 inches if you'd like. And we're basically going to lay them out where we want them. And then what we're going to do, the easiest way to make sure that your notches align for your paper and your pocket is to put them right on top of each other, center the paper right in the center of your cardstock pocket, just like this, all the way to the top. So you have only paper on or cardstock on the left and the right. We're going to push this into our We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board. We're going to notch it at 4 1/8, which is exactly in the middle of this 8 1/4. And that's how you would make a perfect border and make sure that your paper is perfectly aligned with that pocket before you even glue it down. So you're going to just do it again, repeat the process on the second one. Again, this is how you would do it if you wanted notches. Again, my recommendation is to not even bother with them. It's just so much easier to not even deal with the notches and just glue them straight down into the regular rectangle pockets without notches. So we're going to add glue on 3 sides of our pocket on the left-hand side of our flap, the larger flap. And then we're going to glue down this 6 1/4 by 8 1/4 sheet. So that way it makes a pocket on the right-hand side. You see that? So again, on the left side, we're going to add our glue to our large flap. You're going to add it to 3 sides, leaving the pocket where the notch is at open. And then we're going to go ahead and glue down our 6 1/4 by 8 1/4 sheet, which will make our additional flap. And I kind of come off camera for a second, but all you do is you just push it down. You see here now we have pockets on the right-hand sides of both of these. So the easiest way to do it at this point is just to glue down your pockets so you don't like lose these pockets and which ones go to which one, because remember, you notched them perfectly so that way they would align perfectly. You notched them ahead of time, so it's easiest just to go ahead and glue these down now that you have this folio pretty much done from a foundation standpoint. So we're going to add those two. So the next step that we're going to do, and you can see here, this is basically how your folio will square off. The next step is we're going to add our magnet. So again, I'm using these basic gray magnets. If you're using the larger one, those are perfect for thicker paper or multiple layers. Those work fantastic. If you're going to be using a smaller magnet, those are best used for the thinner paper or fewer layers. I am going to use the smaller one because I'm using Simple Stories paper, and it's not as thick as some of the other papers. So you're going to take a positive and a minus, and you're going to go ahead and put them together with the paper peel off on either side, on both sides sticking out. Remove the backing from one side and then place it in the center, but with a little bit, about a finger space available on the edge, so you have room to glue your paper. You're going to remove the second backing of that sticker and then square off your folio very carefully. Make sure you square it off so that way it's not kind of out of shape, and then push it down, and your magnet will then glue down to the cover, which will align for perfect alignment. So let's go ahead and decorate the folio. I'm showing you here what I have. I have some paper scraps. I have some full 6x8 sheets, including some full-size sheets with sentiments and some just decorated paper. And then I do have one sheet of these 3x4 cut-aparts. So you decide what you're gonna use for your cover and your backing first. That usually makes it easier. That way you don't accidentally glue that sheet onto the inside of your folio. So I'm going back and forth, kind of deciding what I want here, because I want it to look a little bit different than the first folio that I made. So once you decide, you're going to add plenty of glue to your 6x8 sheet. And that's the beauty of this folio, is you don't even have to cut down your 6x8 sheets for most of your full-size pages. You just literally pick which one you want from your 6x8 paper pad and then glue it down. And you are going to want to make sure you get plenty of glue on the edges, especially where that magnet was on the front cover. You're going to want to glue down your back. Now let's decide what's going to go on the inside. Now it's around this moment that I realized I started gluing into my extra folio that I had, because my pockets, as you can see here, were in the one of the folios, which I did not glue my cover to. So that just means we're going to be making 2 folios today. So no big deal. I am able to stretch, and what you'll see is I'm able to stretch the 6x8 paper pad and the one sheet that I had to kind of fully make 2 additional folios. So in reality, from this one 6x8 paper pad, this one pack of ephemera, and this one 3x4 cut apart sheet, or this one 12x12 sheet of paper, I am able to make 3 folios when I stretch them. I did not include any additional paper outside of what I just mentioned. So you can see that this one little paper pad and just having a couple of extra items can really stretch a long way. So I'm just gluing down my sheets, and this is so easy, again, because the matting on this folio is going to be perfect for a 6x8 sheet with just a small little border all the way around. So it's perfect for those 6x8 paper pads. Now, for your inside flap that goes on opposite of your pocket, those are going to be 3.5 by 8 inches. I'll list all of the dimensions down in the description box below. And again, your pocket was 2.5 or 2.25 by 8 inches. So super fun. And basically what you'll do is you'll cut up your sheet to where if you cut it at 3.5, and you'll basically be left with a 2.5 sheet portion, which will be perfect for those pockets. So you can mix and match your pocket background with your actual pocket paper. The front little flap, that one is 1.5 by 8 inches. So, and again, I'll list all the dimensions down in the description box below just to make it easier. And again, you'll definitely want to check out MayMay's video, because she shares other little tips and tricks to make this even easier. So you'll definitely want to check that out. I'll list that video in the description box below so you can check it out. I really like how these folios end up turning out. In fact, I've already given out 2 of them, and I only have 1 left out of the 3 that I end up. So you see here, I have some cut apart sheets. Now these are great because I can either use them for cut aparts, or I can use them for decorative, sheets. Now this 12x12 paper, same thing. I've got cut aparts on one side and I've got a full sheet on the back. So I have finished all of my 3 folios using this 6x8 paper pad, one 12x12 sheet, and an ephemera pack. I have no paper left over. My entire 6x8 paper pad of this simple vintage lemon twist by Simple Stories is completely done. I had a few little sentiments and things from this ephemera pack. I just didn't feel like they went perfectly with the folio, so I kept them. I'll use them for future. And then this is all I have left of my 12x12 sheet, which is just the branding strip. So I literally used all of the paper and almost all of the ephemera pack. So very little supplies. I did bring in this calls for confetti. It's gold hologram color. I got that from Not Too Shabby. I'll list their link down in the description box below in case you're interested. These are so fun to use. And then I also have these basic gray magnets, which I used. Again, I used the smaller one, but I do have some links down in the description box below from Amazon in case you're interested. I did pull in this Pops of Color Pearl Ocean Waves. This is from scrapbook.com. I really like the metallic, pearlized shimmer of those. Now, I'm such a folio addict now that while I was waiting for those to dry, I did make 2 additional folios, just kind of waiting. I just couldn't stop. I couldn't help myself. And so you see there, I do recommend not even worrying about the notches. It went together so much quicker without having to worry about those notches. I'll do a full flip through of those 3 folios. So I have my original one, which is this one. So, and again, you see here just the 2 pockets. I use lots of full page sentiments, which you can absolutely cover. Here's a little close-up of the cover. I really like those pops of color and the sequins, just so fun. Here are the 2 additional folios that I made. So here's the one where I had put the cover on. And you see here, I do have my pockets notched out. And then the last one, and I'll do a slower flip through in just a second. I have the one where I had the original pockets that I glued down. And then I came back and added the covers and everything else. And you can see here a little close-up of my cover. Again, those pops of color. Look how flat this is. The pops of color, the sequins. This is something that's great to store because it's not super bulky. And you can still fit a ton of photos in here. The more mats you add, you can fit more photos. So I think it's just such a fun project. Again, you're going to be addicted when you start making these and you realize how easy these are to make. They're so super fun. Here's a close-up. Again, let me do a slower flip through of this first one. Here's a close-up of my front cover. This is where I put the bulk of my decoration. I think these are just so super fun. I did use some of my extra strips that I had. I used extra ephemera pieces. And then what I did on this one is I had these cut aparts. And so what I did was I put tuck spots where you could actually tuck your mat behind these little 3x4 cut aparts that I have glued in here. And these little mats are 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. Again, we used our scraps from making the folio. You can see here, you could actually just layer one straight on top of those 2 cut aparts if you wanted to cover them up. And so the folio mat, those 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 leaves just a small border, perfect for your 4x6 photos. I went ahead and matted all the little like nooks and crannies. Again, I made 3 folios using a 6x8 paper pad, a 12x12 sheet, and 1 pack of ephemera. Thanks for visiting, everyone. Hope you subscribe, like this video, follow me on Instagram. Here are a couple videos I think you might enjoy, and happy crafting.